Hi there, welcome to our webinar on why you should stop doing backups. This webinar is part one of a two-part series on why you should stop doing backups. In this webinar, we'll be focusing on how IT security can be negatively affected as a result of you doing your backups. I hope you'll find it interesting and informative, and I'll be doing my best to challenge some commonly held beliefs about IT management, and my hope is that it will inspire you to think about IT management in some new and interesting ways. First, a little bit about StoragePipe. StoragePipe offers comprehensive data protection in the cloud. And by comprehensive, we mean that every system in your company, from tablets and laptops all the way up to virtual servers and enterprise applications, are protected. And we protect these systems completely, including cloud storage, backup, archiving, disaster recovery, and even hot sites for emergency failover. All of these services are available through a single trusted provider. We've been in business since 2001, and this is, that's been a long time, since before the terms cloud or online backup really even became known in the industry. So in order to make this presentation interesting, I am splitting it up into two sections. First, I'll tell you exactly how to implement your own secure, consistent, and compliant and cost-effective backup process. You can do it all yourself without having to rely on StoragePipe or any other outside company. After that, I'll try to present you some compelling arguments as to why you should still outsource this work to a dedicated cloud backup and disaster recovery provider like StoragePipe, even if you have the tools and resources to do the work in-house. So, first things first, time to share our secret sauce. The need to keep data private while also preserving it for the long term are two forces of nature that constantly work against each other. Despite the fact that backing up to the cloud is objectively better in nearly every way, we understand that some people will always want to protect their data the hard way. That's why we've decided to share our secret sauce. Even if you decide to perform all of your own offsite backups through a self-managed in-house process, we're going to show you how to harden this process and ensure total security for your backup data. So here we go. How to harden your backups. Number one, maintain multiple versions. If you're just copying your files over to another device every day and your computer gets corrupted, you're simply overwriting older valid copies of this newly corrupted data. A great example of this is ransomware, where you get a virus that encrypts all the data onto your computer and then you copy it to an external USB drive. Well, now you've just overwritten good data with this encrypted data and you've got two copies of bad data. In order for a process to be considered backup, it must maintain historical copies of changes within your files. This allows you to go back in time to before the unwanted changes were made to your files. You should also note that now we're in the age of file sharing and collaboration, so it's very common for people in our networks to make changes to our local documents without anyone noticing. This point-in-time recovery capability that backup offers is now more important than ever. Number two, backup often. In the backup industry, we use the term recovery point objective, or RPO, to describe the amount of data loss that can be tolerated in an emergency. For example, if you only back up once a month, then you have an RPO of 1 month. That's not very good. You should be updating your backups as often as possible. In a perfect world, you should be backing up every few seconds, but that simply isn't realistic. If you're doing your backups manually, at the very least, you should be backing up on a consistent daily basis in order to maintain a 24-hour RPO. Number three, encrypt your backups. Today, theft of backup media is one of the leading causes of data leaks and privacy breaches. Every time you make a copy of a file, the odds of a privacy leak go up exponentially. This is especially true in the case of backup, since a lot of IT administrators will just store all of their backup media in an environment which is less secure than the primary production environment. One way to prevent such breaches is to always encrypt your data before backing it up. This makes it more difficult for hackers and other criminals to access your data in the event that your backups are stolen. You should also make sure that only authorized people can decrypt the data. In other words, if you're using a private key, keep that key to yourself and use it on an as-needed basis. Number four, keep your backups off-site. Too many people keep their backups at the same physical site as their primary computers. If you keep your external USB drive in your house, it will be destroyed along with your computer in the event of a natural disaster. Your backups should be kept in another building that's located far away from your primary system. Number 5, transfer your backups over a secure network. You should avoid manual handling of backup media whenever possible. When you're sending your backup storage media off-site, it could become lost, stolen, or damaged. It's much safer to keep all of your storage devices within your off-site storage location and to transfer your backup data over a secure encrypted connection. This transfer should ideally occur over an encrypted network such as a TLS or SSL connection. Number 6, keep your backups in a physically secure facility. This may seem shocking to some people, but keeping a top secret classified email server in your bathroom is probably not a great idea. If anything happens to your backups, the consequences could be devastating. That's why you should keep all of your backups in a secure facility. So what do I mean when I say a secure facility? Simply, I mean it should offer things such as technology-friendly fire suppression systems, 24/7 security guards, redundant power generators, redundant power connectivity, redundant network connectivity, security cameras, reinforced physical infrastructure, tailgate prevention gates, things like that. Number 7, maintain multiple copies of your backups. You should maintain backups of your backups in case anything happens to your primary backups. Ideally, we recommend 1 local backup copy and 2 additional offsite copies, although there's different takes on this approach, depending on who you speak with. Number 8, assign a backup administrator. This is a very important one, and we'll be going into more detail later in the presentation about this, but suffice to say that you should have an individual whose job it is to regularly monitor your backups for consistency. When potential problems arise, they should take proactive measures to fix them before they become an issue. Number 9, test your backups regularly. You should schedule periodic recovery drills in order to ensure that your backups can be recovered in an emergency. Practice with different scenarios to simulate different types of data disasters. If you spot potential issues, modify your backup process to correct them. And there you have our secret sauce. If you follow these 9 best practices, your backups will be more secure and more reliable than those of many of today's IT professionals. Of course, this might seem obvious, and I'm sure that we're not the first people to lay out these classic backup fundamentals, and yet many companies rarely perform their backups in this way. Why is that? That's something we're going to get into this in a few moments. So with this checklist at your disposal, you'll find that there's an abundance of powerful, easy to use tools, point solutions really, out there that can help you get the job done. If you ignore total cost of ownership and opportunity cost, the argument could probably be made that doing your own backups might seem much less expensive than outsourcing to a dedicated service provider like StoragePipe. And now that you know how to implement and manage your own secure, resilient, and inexpensive backup process, we can talk about why this would be a terrible idea and why your data backups are best left in the hands of a professional. First, I'd like to expose an elephant in the room. Let's start with theft, viruses, and natural disasters. These are the topics of focus of every other backup webinar from every other vendor. But let me be the first one to tell you, if you're primarily worried about these threats, you're completely missing the point. In a recent survey, it was revealed that 45% of SMB IT executives have already experienced data loss, and with an average cost of about $9,000 per incident. Also, of all the instances where data was lost, about 14% were critical and unrecoverable. But the most interesting finding from this survey was the fact that the primary cause of data loss were hardware failure at 54%, followed by human error at 28%. Software corruption came in third at 9%. Together, these 3 causes accounted for 91% of all data loss incidents. Assuming that each of these companies probably already had some sort of a backup plan in place, this is unacceptable. In order to grab attention and stir controversy, the media often focuses on the most dramatic causes of data loss, such as computer viruses, theft, and natural disasters. These 3 areas are usually also the top areas of concerns in the minds of IT executives, but these 3 causes combined made up just 7% of all data loss incidents. Again, the three most talked about causes of data loss account for an insignificant fraction of all incidents. And worst of all, the leading causes are things that should have been avoided by following the principles laid out in our secret sauce slide. So let me ask you, what if? What if there was an easily preventable safety problem that was causing death and destruction all around you? Would you take immediate action to fix it? In 1999, the US Institute of Medicine released a shocking study where they revealed that over 98,000 people died every year from preventable medical errors. That's the equivalent of about one fully loaded jumbo jet crashing every single day. Just like other humans, doctors make mistakes. And because their time is valuable, they must make lots of potentially life or death decisions in a fast-paced work environment that's full of multitasking and distractions. This is why the US Institute of Medicine's To Err is Human report recommended computerized automation as one of the simplest and most effective ways to drastically cut down the number of preventable patient deaths. Although computerized automation tools had existed for a long time before this report, many doctors simply saw no urgency in changing the way they've always worked, and as a result, thousands of people suffered easily preventable deaths. The IT industry is undergoing a very similar crisis when it comes to data protection. Just like with doctors, IT time is valuable. IT administrators make lots of important decisions in a fast-paced work environment that's full of multitasking and distractions. Most IT administrators prefer the comfort and control of manually managing their own backup systems, despite the fact that automation and specialization and delegation clearly offer better overall security. When it comes to data protection and business continuity, the stakes are high. If a doctor makes a medical mistake, it can hurt one patient. But if an IT administrator makes a backup mistake, it can bring down large companies and destroy the livelihoods of thousands of people. If left untreated, these errors in your business continuity and data protection process can become a ticking time bomb within the company. Preventable data loss needs to be addressed immediately before it's too late. But even if you think following all of our best practices, critical data loss can still occur due to a number of reasons. For example, what would happen if there was a fire alarm in your building right now? Would there be a mad rush for the doors, or would most people just ignore it and keep working until they smelled smoke? According to the Institute for Research and Construction, only about 25% of occupants react to fire alarms as if they were potential indicators of a real emergency. Instead, most people assume that the alarm is simply a drill. In other words, fire drills actually decrease the life-saving effectiveness of fire alarms. Here's another example to consider. In 2010, an 89-year-old patient died of a heart failure at the Massachusetts General Hospital. For 20 minutes leading up to this patient's death, a series of alarms, beeps, and messages had been sending urgent warnings to the hospital staff. The noise was so distracting that an employee had to manually shut off the crisis alarm on the patient's bedside monitor. Instead of taking appropriate action, these signals were completely ignored. These nurses weren't evil or cold-blooded. Instead, they became so desensitized by years of constant false alarms from oversensitive and malfunctioning medical devices. When an actual crisis was detected, everybody assumed that it was simply a false alarm. This phenomena is known as alarm fatigue, and it can lead to accidental data loss and failure of critical business systems. As an IT administrator, you're constantly juggling priorities, multitasking, and keeping up with unplanned work. Alarms are constantly going off, and your job is to decide which fires are most important and which ones can be put out later. In most cases, if you miss a legitimate alarm, the consequences are relatively minor. But there's one area where the consequences can be very severe. Compared to other conflicting responsibilities, backup and disaster recovery rarely feel like an urgent priority. But when they do become a priority, it's usually too late to do anything about it. In order to be an effective and responsive IT leader, you need to manage your signal-to-noise ratio. Before you're notified of an alarm, it helps to have someone that will verify and triage for you. Segregation of duties is an effective way to deal with alarm fatigue. When you delegate backup to a specialist, you can eliminate all the distractions and conflicting priorities that might lead to alarm fatigue. Instead, you establish a consistent, repetitive process where every potential problem is proactively investigated and fixed. Then you can implement additional layers of auditing and monitoring to catch any issues that might fall through the cracks. By making this a dedicated and focused role within your IT function, you can greatly reduce the chances of alarm fatigue creeping into your backup and disaster recovery process. If you can't afford to have a dedicated internal data protection and business continuity team, then outsourcing can give you the same benefits for a fraction of the cost. But we'll get into that later. First, let's talk about another common problem with self-managed backups. In 1999, NASA invested over $300 million into the Mars Climate Orbiter project. The spacecraft crashed into Mars and disintegrated because scientists had accidentally mistaken metric measurements for imperial units. How is it that some of the most intelligent people in the world working on such an important project could make such an obvious mistake? Imagine the following situation. You're downloading a new app onto your smartphone and it requires confirmation of certain basic permissions in order to install. Access to your microphone? Yes. Access to your camera? Yes. Access to your Bluetooth? Yes. Access to your personal contacts? Yes. No, wait, I don't want to. But it's too late. You've just given the application permission to send spam to all your personal contacts and hurt your personal reputation in the process. This is a classic example of a mode error. Mode errors occur when somebody makes a bad decision out of habit, resulting in negative consequences. Every day we read news stories of people whose bank accounts were wiped out because they forgot a decimal point on a check. If a mode error works its way into your backup process, the results for your company can be catastrophic. You may configure certain settings, thinking that you're doing something completely different, and these errors might go undiscovered until you need to perform an emergency recovery. At StoragePipe, we see the consequences of mode errors every day. It's common for clients to back up their laptops but neglect their Outlook PST files. Because it's easy to create new virtual machines, they are sometimes forgotten and omitted from the backup process. As a company might be performing the same backup process for years without testing, and when it comes time to recover, they find that their backups are either empty or completely unusable. Although automation is great for eliminating human error from your backup process, it often also sometimes has the opportunity to enhance damage caused by mode errors. And in an automated process, these mistakes can go undetected for years. There are many factors that can lead to mode errors, such as distractions, unfamiliarity, multitasking, complexity, and lack of oversight. Segregation of responsibilities can help eliminate many instances of mode errors. If you have a team or individual that only handles a narrow set of duties, they will be familiar enough to anticipate and avoid most common types of mode errors. And because they have a narrow scope of responsibility, they also avoid the complexity and distractions that can often lead to such mistakes. Also, there should be some sort of a monitoring and review process that proactively looks for potential errors that might creep into the backup and into your data protection. This is why backup testing and monitoring can be of great help. Mode errors are one of the reasons why many companies will outsource their business continuity to a team of highly specialized experts. These specialists are trained, experienced, and focused on just one objective, ensuring that you can recover quickly and consistently from the worst possible IT disaster. And that brings us to our next problem. In 1992, the Royal Majesty cruise ship ran aground because of an electrical problem with their GPS system. Although it should have been clear to any experienced crew member that the ship had been veering off course, most simply assumed that the GPS system would correct itself or that somebody else would take responsibility for fixing the problem. Humans have a bias to trust computers over other humans, and as this bias grows over time, computers continue to prove their accuracy and trustworthiness. When a human operator notices something wrong with an automated system, they are often likely to disregard reality and just go with what the computer is saying. This is an excellent example of what's called the automation paradox. The automation paradox says that as automation becomes more effective, the role of the human operator becomes more crucial. In the same way that automation can create exponential benefits and efficiencies, it can also scale out the harm caused by human error and poor implementation. A day in the life of the average IT administrator often resembles the broom scene from Disney's Fantasia. Today, virtualization makes it easy to quickly launch new servers with default security settings. IT departments must deal with virtualization sprawl, shadow IT, employees working from unauthorized systems, those sorts of things. Provisioning has become so easy that IT administrators are actually struggling to prevent new systems from getting added to their networks, and as a result, tolerances for data loss, security breaches, and unplanned downtime have virtually dropped to zero. Thankfully, the tools have also improved. Today's IT administrators have access to backup and disaster recovery systems that are both extremely powerful and extremely easy to use. But the automation paradox also applies here. If you can protect all of your virtualized systems from a single application, that's great, but this also means that human error has the potential to cause much more damage. When man first learned to dominate fire 300,000 years ago, it allowed them to cook their meals, stay warm, see at night, and protect themselves against predators. But if handled improperly, this same fire could also burn down the entire village and its crops. This has been true of every great technological innovation ever since. As your data protection and business continuity tools become more powerful, you also have a responsibility to be extra cautious with their management, monitoring, and implementation. Now it's time for a quiz. What if you were a billionaire? What if you had virtually unlimited wealth and you can have anything you desire immediately without having to consider the cost? What if you had a custom-made car, custom-tailored clothes, and a custom-built house? What if you had a personal butler, a personal housekeeping team, and a personal driver, and a personal chef? Wouldn't that be great? But what about your health? If you were a billionaire, would you have a personal doctor? If you could have a dedicated health professional that exclusively looked after your own well-being on a 24/7 basis, would you do it? Or would you continue to visit the same community doctors and walk-in clinics as everybody else? This idea sounds great in theory, but the reality is that relying on a community doctor would be far superior to having your own exclusive healthcare professional. When visiting a community doctor, you are benefiting from the fact that they are treating many other patients. When you come to them with a health concern, they have years of experience with different patients. They've seen it all and they cure different patients every day from all sorts of diverse illnesses. And you benefit from this experience in a way that would not be possible through a dedicated personal doctor. Although a personal doctor might feel like the superior option, the community doctor is still objectively better. Backup and disaster recovery are very similar. Most IT professionals enjoy the control that comes from a self-managed in-house backup or disaster recovery solution. Managing your own backup process might feel better. However, unless you test your backups every day for every possible backup scenario, you might not be confident or prepared for when a real disaster takes place. But the reality is that delegating backup and disaster recovery to a dedicated business continuity and data protection specialist is far superior. These dedicated professionals perform real-world recovery drills every day and have the experience to calmly, confidently, and expertly provide fast, consistent, error-free recovery for just about any situation you can imagine. In the same way that you benefit from having your doctor treat other patients, your company benefits from having your backup provider serve other customers. This level of competency and experience would be very difficult to duplicate with an in-house implementation. In other words, outsourcing can provide you with complete protection and total peace of mind. And every time I do one of these presentations, I always hear the same concerns. So let's address this issue once and for all. For over a decade, the cloud computing has been one of the most talked about trends in IT. Compared to traditional infrastructure, leveraging the cloud has been consistently shown to offer overwhelmingly positive business benefits. And despite the long track record of success, some IT administrators are still reluctant to trust the cloud when it comes to their data protection. One of the most common anti-cloud arguments you might hear is what's often referred to as the bank fallacy. The bank fallacy says that robbers target banks because that's where all the money is. This logic seems to suggest that the risk of theft goes up when you consolidate all of your assets. Instead of going after hundreds of small targets, a thief would supposedly prefer to go after a single massive heist. In other words, by moving your backups to the cloud, you would actually be creating an incentive for a data breach. This is a complete fallacy, and there's a number of serious problems with this argument. Let's look at the example of a typical self-managed backup process. Every day, the IT administrator would make a single unencrypted incremental backup copy to tape. In many cases, these tapes would never be taken off-site, but if they are, the unencrypted tapes would simply be mailed to another unsecure office where they would be kept in maybe a closet or a cardboard box. Compare this to a typical cloud backup provider. First, the data is encrypted locally from the client's machine. Once encrypted, this data cannot be decrypted without the client's secret credentials. From here, the data is transmitted over a secure socket layer connection into a state-of-the-art data center. In addition to the most robust technological safeguards, the building is also physically secure. Once in storage, the data is protected on a by 24/7 security guards, video cameras, and network security experts. In addition to, as an added precaution, a second redundant copy of the encrypted data is also created in case the first copy is somehow destroyed or damaged. It's extremely rare that a company would have the in-house resources and expertise to implement a backup and disaster recovery process that's as secure as those available from a full-service data protection and business continuity provider. And even if they could implement such a process, the cost would be significantly higher. When someone brings up the bank fallacy, they are essentially arguing that storing your life savings in a bank is more dangerous than keeping the cash under your mattress. They're also arguing that if everyone keeps cash under their mattress at home, that this would act as a deterrent to crime. As we all know, this is completely untrue. It's untrue when it comes to money, and it's also untrue when it comes to data protection. If you're looking for complete protection that provides you with total peace of mind, the cloud is simply your most secure and reliable option. So now I'd like to tell you a story. There once was a manufacturer that supplied car parts for a car company. Their quality control process was so great that it allowed them to ensure no more than one defect for every 1,000 parts shipped. At first, this seems very impressive. However, each car consisted of over 10,000 different components. If every car supplier maintained the same standard of quality, this would guarantee 10 defects for every vehicle. Not only would this create unhappy customers, but it could also put lives at risk. A similar principle also comes into play when it comes to managing and protecting corporate IT systems. I'll get into that in a little bit, but first I want to talk about something a little bit different. A group of university researchers recently completed a major 4-year assessment of tech vendors by 36,000 customers. One of the more interesting findings to come out of the study was that technology professionals overwhelmingly prefer to work with integrated systems instead of buying and assembling components to create their own solutions. Integrated solutions have long been preferred amongst IT customers in both the business and consumer spaces. With IBM systems, hardware, hypervisors, OS, database, and applications are all provided by the same vendor, and these are all designed in such a way that they work together immaculately. This provides the lowest possible total cost of ownership, and these systems are secure and resilient by default. Similarly, Apple has achieved market dominance by offering hardware, operating systems, and other components from the same provider, while also maintaining tight control over the applications and content that can be used on their systems. Because Apple has control over every aspect of their platforms, they are able to provide a truly exceptional and streamlined user experience that has created a loyal and almost cult-like following. And because these systems are completely integrated, they're also much easier to use, upgrade, maintain, and repair. When it comes to technology, there's definitely something to be said about simplification. The data protection requirements for most companies today might include something like backup for traveling laptops and PCs, file sharing and collaboration, database backup, file server backup, full system state backups, disaster recovery and high availability for critical systems, archiving for information compliance, backup for Linux, Windows, Mac, iSeries, whatever, and also this includes protection for physical and virtual machines. Typically, you would just accrue a whole bunch of different point solutions for all these different things, and you're just accumulating technical debt that you have to deal with later down the road that just keeps creating all this unplanned work. Each of these processes requires investments of time, resources, and capital. The company will need to spend money on new hardware and software. They'll need to train new internal staff on how to manage these various data protection activities and hire outside consultants for implementation and maintenance. The company will also incur other costs relating to data center space, storage media, shipping costs, offsite storage, and energy consumption. In this context, there are a number of risks that arise when a company attempts to manage their own backup and data protection. First, there's the capital risk. Every dollar spent on in-house data protection solutions is a sunk cost. If the company's IT requirements change significantly in the near future, they will have to reinvest again in expensive new solutions. Then there's the liability risk. Human error is one of the leading causes of critical data loss and privacy breaches. Because data protection is often seen as a cost center, for most companies, this role is usually assigned to a junior IT person so that more experienced staff can devote their work to revenue generating and more strategic activities. So getting back to the car parts example that we mentioned before, every backup and recovery introduces a very small element of risk when it comes to human error or physical media failure. But when a company needs to maintain many different data protection processes across dozens or even hundreds of machines, the likelihood of error becomes much more significant. This is particularly true when these processes are repeated over the space of many years. And it makes sense when you think about it. Modern hard drives are extremely stable. However, over the span of 5 years, the average hard drive has roughly a 50% chance of crashing or failing. Tiny risks can add up with time and repetition. Yes, there are quality control processes that can be implemented to ensure that these data protection processes never fail, or to ensure that potential problems are immediately flagged and fixed, but such quality control processes are often too difficult, expensive, or time-consuming for many companies to implement. This is further compounded by the fact that the work required to ensure backup integrity does not contribute immediately to generating value towards the company's core revenue generating activities. Thankfully, this is an area where managed backup providers can help. Managed backup providers take data protection and offer it as a completely integrated solution. This way, you can get your laptop backup, server backup, business continuity, archiving, and other data protection services all through a single provider. And all of these services are professionally managed and monitored and are made available on a pay-as-you-go basis without any capital investment. This is a cost-effective way to implement best-of-breed solutions. And if your data protections ever suddenly need a change in the future, the managed backup provider allows a managed backup and disaster recovery provider allows companies to adapt quickly and inexpensively. In essence, you're taking the capital risk associated with data protection and business continuity and shifting it onto someone else. In addition to having best-of-breed technology and infrastructure, managed backup providers are also staffed by full-time backup professionals who have up-to-date training and perform emergency disaster recoveries on a daily basis. When something goes wrong, they have the experience and knowledge to dependably recover your systems and data in a timely manner. Managed backup providers also monitor the health of customer backups and take proactive action to resolve any potential issues before they become a problem. This is an activity that's often neglected at companies that perform their own internal backups. Most importantly, since it's their core business, managed backup providers are also zealous about consistently ensuring security, resiliency, and integrity of all their customer data. And since it's their core business, they also do it at a much lower cost than what it would take for you to maintain the same quality standards in-house. With a managed backup provider, all of your data protection for all of your data and systems can be integrated into a single pay-as-you-go service. This ensures better overall quality and reliability, lower costs, and easier management. But most importantly, it minimizes the risks associated with managing your own data protection. This concludes part 1 of our webinar series on why you should stop doing your backups. What did you think? Get in touch with us and let us know. Your feedback will help us improve the content for future webinars. And if you'd like more information on how StoragePipe can help provide you with complete protection for total peace of mind, please reach out to us and book a demo. I think that you'll be really pleased with what we have to offer.